To the top, here I go, think I'm chosen to be the king of rock, think the people have spoken. I can hear the tick-tock of the clock, I'm in motion. So now I'm gonna pop, causing all this commotion. Yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Hopkins, and this is my good buddy Brandon, and welcome to the channel. And tonight we're going to be reviewing NXT, the Great American Bash. And before we get into all that though, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications for when we put up new content here on the channel. And before we get into the main show, the NXT show for tonight, we did not get a chance to talk about Smackdown or Raw from this previous week, so we're going to jump into that just a little bit here. Just hit some of the highlights and some of our general thoughts on it. To start off the show, well, it didn't really start the show on SmackDown, I should say. It was mostly, I think it was the main event, as a matter of fact. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, for what feels like it is the 1000th time we've seen this match. However, from what I understand, this match is absolutely incredible. So definitely go out of your way to check it out. Kevin Owens qualifies for the Money in the Bank match here by beating Sami Zayn, but definitely a great match. Zelina Vega also made her return to WWE and immediately gets pinned within 1 minute by Liv Morgan. So they put Zelina Vega in the Money in the Bank ladder match, much like they did Carmella last week, without actually earning anything. And Liv Morgan has beaten them both now in consecutive weeks, and she's not in the Money in the Bank match yet. Obviously, as we discussed last week, I think they're going to tell the story that she will get in the Money in the Bank match. That's obvious. That's where they're going now. But it's just weird how those two women didn't have to earn anything and everybody else has had to earn it. So I don't know if I care for that part of it. But also on SmackDown, no Roman Reigns this last week, so he was not on the show. So the only thing that really happened in regards to that storyline was Edge cut a passionate promo, and he destroyed Jimmy Uso much the same way he destroyed Roman the previous week. However, breaking news today came out that Jimmy Uso got arrested for a DUI yet again. This is not his first instance of this happening. So, from what I understand, WWE management is not thrilled with Jimmy Uso right now, so I don't know what's going to happen to him. Based on his, the whole storyline with Roman and things like that, he may not get fired, but someone needs to really step in and help him out, or he's going to end up hurting himself or someone else. Yeah. It's starting to become a little bit Jeff Hardy-ish, even though Jeff Hardy's kind of gotten his demons under control a little bit. But we'll have to wait and see. It may end up being no Usos in this Roman Reigns storyline moving forward if this continues, because Jay is out for I can't remember what the reason was Jay was out, to be totally honest. Do you remember?
No.
But they took him off TV last week, and he wasn't on this week's show either, from what I understand. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes moving forward. But they could do that feud with Edge without the Usos for sure.
Yeah,
and Roman will be just fine. It's just that they've taken the time to build it around the Usos and the entire family, so to speak. I mean, my inner Vin Diesel family. So yeah, we'll see what they do with that. So that was about all that was really worth noting on SmackDown last week, really, to be honest. Raw this week started off with a circus-like clown show on Miz TV, bunch of goofy comedy, including which Drew McIntyre is now a history teacher. He cut a good promo in regards to telling an old Scottish warrior story about a week or so ago. So now WWE's making him do all these crazy stories, including telling a story about the Loch Ness Monster and the history of his sword a little bit later on in the show.
That's Vince's sword.
Oh. Though. Yeah. So, but it just seems like since Drew McIntyre did such a good job with it, that WWE is now stuck him with this gimmick. So it'll be interesting to see how this gets over with crowds.
Have nothing for him.
No, they don't, and it's really showing here. Then we also had Johnny Drip, obviously doing his moist gimmick. A lot of ocean puns and waterfall puns and all this stuff, basically, for his gimmick here. It's really rather cheesy. Ricochet was dancing like Mr. Roboto. I don't know what's going on here. He kind of got in a little bit of a rap off with John Morrison, so it was kind of like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. And then, of course, we had Riddle. Basically, all the Money in the Bank ladder match participants on Raw showed up in the middle of the ring. Riddle sat on top of the ladder and made weed jokes, talking about how he was high because he was sitting on top of the ladder, haha. So, yeah, there's that. Ricochet versus John Morrison started off the show. Second week in a row. Second week without a good finish. Last week we had a double count out. This week was just a straight count out when Ricochet was on the outside of the ring. The Miz parked his wheelchair in front of him so he could not get back into the ring. So that's how he lost. And we're going to get this match a third time in 3 weeks next week when they do a Falls Count Anywhere. I can't wait to see how they don't have a finish in this one either and a clear-cut winner. So
yay.
That's kind of what my thoughts on that feud. Jinder Mahal is mad at Drew McIntyre for Jinder not what was it? What did I say? Not being in the Money in the Bank. So yeah, he's mad at Drew McIntyre for what he says he's taking his spot in the Money in the Bank. But I hate to tell Jinder Mahal, Drew McIntyre really had nothing to do with that. That was management who didn't give him the opportunity. So I don't know why he's mad at Drew. He said he's also mad at Drew for not texting him correctly when he invited him to go out riding on his motorcycle last year. And he said the way he texted him was he wrote "too busy, sorry," but instead of writing the word T-O-O for "too busy," he put in the number 2, and that's why he was mad at him for Brian Alvarez on his Wrestling Observer Live thought that was basically Vince. Somebody who must have texted him like that, and it sounded like he got mad and just really wanted to throw that in the show.
He was like, I'm just going to throw him under the bus.
Yeah, so why not? Yeah, so, I mean, that sounds like something that Vince would do for sure. Crazy stat, by the way, Shayna Baszler has not won a singles match in 150 days. Thought that was interesting. Nia Jax made fun of Doudrop's name on the show. So of all people, Nia Jax is being scripted to body shame someone. I thought that was interesting. Naomi.
And the weird thing is, from what I understand, Vince loves the pairing between Maria and Piper.
Yeah, for now. In about 2 weeks from now, he's going to get sick of it and split them up.
All her Doudrop. That is dumb.
Yeah, I don't get it. We had Naomi, Asuka, and Nikki Ash, almost a superhero, is what it stands for. Backstage before their 8-women tag match with Alexa Bliss as their partner. This was all very cringy. Nikki Ash especially. I love her enthusiasm, and I love that, but at the same time, this gimmick is terrible. I just cannot get behind it. And of course, Asuka was doing her cringy singing movements and all that stuff too, so I couldn't get into it personally. During the 8-women's tag match, it was those 4 women against Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Doudrop, and Eva Marie. Nia Jax gets the pinfall on Nikki Ash. So the woman that they've been pretty much pushing for weeks now, even though she's not really won much of anything, they flat out pinned by Nia Jax here. And of course, this leads to Eva Marie once again declaring herself the winner for doing absolutely nothing. So that's 3 weeks in a row there. So does that mean Eva Marie's going to win the women's championship at some point because she's going to get it without doing anything?
I mean, if that's how you do it.
I mean, I don't think she's in the Money in the Bank match yet, but never say never. We had Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali. I will give him this. That is a fresh matchup. Ali's trying to be this like mentor figure to Mansoor a little bit, but they ended up wrestling here, which is interesting. Mansoor is a dumb babyface though, because Mansoor helped free Ali from being stuck in the ropes, only to get WWE's favorite finish in the company when he loses by roll up to Ali. So he kind of fell for that. That's absolutely. So it makes him kind of stupid. Drew versus Jinder Mahal. This was a DQ finish. Jinder Mahal stole Drew's sword after the match. So I guess that's going to have to continue that feud. Elias and Cedric Alexander versus Jackson Ryker after R-Truth bailed on Ryker to chase the 24/7 title. It's been 2 years since the 24/7 title has been introduced. It's kind of like, all right, either do something with it or just get rid of it. This thing it's kind of pointless at this point.
They are doing something with it.
Yeah, with a bunch of geeks chasing after it every week. I mean, it's a comedy belt, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but it always no, I can't say it always has been. Because I don't know if I mean, I guess it was still comedy then too. When the hardcore title had the 24 stipulation added to it. But you actually had matches where they defended that title.
They don't do that.
So.
And it's interesting, too, because R-Truth was in this tag match with Jackson Ryker. At one point, when the 24/7 was introduced, they said it cannot be defended during a match. So R-Truth, during his match, tries a roll-up on Tozawa. And, of course, it doesn't work, and he ends up chasing him away, leaving Jackson Ryker to fend off Elias and Cedric Alexander on himself in a 2-on-1 match. Even 2-on-1, Elias still ran from Ryker. And, of course, Ryker wins and pins Cedric Alexander, who deserves a lot better, in my opinion. For whatever reason, Elias the heel still couldn't take advantage of the advantage. Where does this go?
Scared. I mean, it's building between Ryker and
Elias.
Even though
Ryker and Elias had a strap match last week and Ryker pinned him straight up in, I think, 3 minutes. So it's kind of like, all right, he's already beat him emphatically. I don't understand why we're continuing this. But New Day, who was named the greatest tag team of all time last week. Okay. I mean, it's WWE basically promoting what they have now and basically wants you to forget their past because they were a pro wrestling company at one point. Like, I mean, clearly there are greater tag teams than the New Day. Yes, the New Day have had the most tag team championship reigns in history, but out of all those reigns, I think probably maybe one or two are actually memorable. The other ones are just kind of quick. They drop the belts. It's kind of like Charlotte, just constantly.
No, I mean, no. They had the longest. They were the.
Yeah, they were longest, but that was one of the reigns that actually counted. But the other ones, and like, what are they, 7 or 8? I don't remember how many times they are now. But all
that was
those,
like in that back and forth between them and the Usos.
Yeah,
and what the Bludgeon Brothers. But that went on for like fucking.
Which is where they got like most of their reigns. I just wouldn't count those reigns worthy. I mean, the longest reign or that 400 days or whatever they had it. Yeah, that one was a good one. That one counts.
I mean, but like to say they're not a good
No, I'm not saying they're not
can be
good.
counted amongst the greatest tag teams.
But they named them the greatest tag team of all time.
Well, I mean, that's just wording.
And to me, it's like, okay, I could name 5 or 6 off the top of my head. Legion of Doom, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys. I mean.
But did they have the runs like they did?
They might have had more meaningful. They had more meaningful runs, in my opinion.
They had the runs.
The run. Wow. Way to get nasty. Yeah, way to get nasty in the first 10 minutes of this episode. But that it kind of goes to my point of Charlotte. Like she's had maybe 1 or 2 good reigns, but even though she's like the 11-time champ, the rest of them she held like a day or a week just to get the numbers up, which is to me. That means you just lost it more often, for sure. Somebody like Ric Flair, who had 16 world championships, most of those meant something. So that's why his 16 championships mean a lot.
Wait, how long? Never mind. That's semantics. Let's go.
Moving on. Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Charlotte was in the ring on crutches, basically selling the injury where she got chop blocked by Rhea last week. She talked like she was going to be out for some time with this injury. That's when Rhea Ripley walked out on crutches as well, mocking Charlotte Flair. And of course, she was saying that Charlotte was saying, "You're not really hurt," and Rhea goes, "Yeah, you're not either." They kicked the crutch away from her. Then they ended up having a jousting match with these crutches, a big sword fight. And to me, it's like, yeah, in which Charlotte ended up losing that in the end. Who's the baby face here?
Neither one of them.
No, it makes me want to just watch them both lose. It's just me. Let's see here. What else did we have? Mason T-Bar versus the Lucha House Party. Let's see. What was this? I think Lucha House Party won with yet another roll-up victory. Dominic Dijakovic, I think his career is pretty well done. Unless they repackage him. Also, it was a 3-minute match. It seems like Monday Night Raw, outside of the main event, a lot of times the matches are far too short. I don't understand that. You got 3 hours. Fill it with some good wrestling. Wrestling's one of your strong suits. Fill it with the good wrestling. We had Riddle versus AJ Styles. Another good match, as you would expect between these two, no doubt about that. But it ended in, yet again, a distraction finish with Riddle pinning AJ Styles with yet another roll-up after Viking Raiders distracted AJ and Almost on the outside. At least Riddle did do a good job selling his foot injury from last week where he kicked the steel steps. Those little details are really good. Riddle's good at that, and he's actually a good talent. Some of the gimmick and goofiness they have him go through is another thing. And once again, Randy Orton was missing from the show, so he's just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened to him. But he's not been on the show previous weeks. And then the main event, we had New Day versus Bobby Lashley and MVP. This match was just kind of there. It wasn't anything to write home about. Obviously, AJ and Riddle had the better match on the show. But the New Day pinned MVP to win the match. At least they didn't pin the champion this time, so I'll give them that. Oh, wow. Will do. Yes, ma'am. So, yeah, all in all, I didn't think... Raw was a very good show. It just wasn't. SmackDown had a few good moments like the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match, but other than that, it was kind of missable on the main roster. So that brings us to NXT for this week, the Great American Bash. The show started off with Dusty Rhodes. Fittingly opened the show in a video package. They took some stuff he's talked about the Great American Bash over the years. A good video package that ran down the card for the show tonight. The red, white, and blue ropes were back on the ring. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I always like seeing those. It's kind of nice, a little bit of a nostalgia trip there. The show opened up with NXT Tag Team Champions MSK defeating Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher. And again, this is NXT. It's not the main roster, but a roll-up victory. A good match, though, all things considered.
That was the only way they were going to win that match, though.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of boiled down to Tommaso ended up getting shoved into Timothy Thatcher when he had the victory well in hand. And, of course, MSK took advantage with the roll-up. So, at least in this sense, I think the roll-up made some sense. And it was the only one on the show, I believe. So, I'll give him credit there. Like Raw, I think, had 3 of them. So, it's like, oh, my goodness. But, yeah, this was NXT wrestling is always top-notch. And this is no different here.
So, I missed this match. I'm going to go back and watch this one later. But everything after this, I saw.
Yeah, right. Definitely a good match here. I kind of got the feeling, I don't think they're going to break up Ciampa and Thatcher.
No,
but they did kind of have this at the end of the match. Kind of was like, "What were you doing, man?" Like that sort of thing. But MSK earns their respect. Hopefully,
they're both unstable. What do you think? Like,
yeah,
of course they're gonna argue,
right?
But I don't think they're gonna break them up. But right now, Tommaso not being in the NXT. Heavyweight title picture is a good thing. You already got a lot of players in there right now. Plus, he's a veteran. Him and Thatcher both. You can use them to keep bolstering your tag division.
And obviously, I think the point of this match was purely and obviously for good reason. It's good booking to get MSK a little more over. Yes, they are the champs, but they were billing them as the underdogs in this match, and they kind of were based on the talent they were going up against. But it's to kind of, solidify them as a team and solidify them as actual champions that deserve to be there. So I think in that regard, they did a good job of putting them over here. Very physical, very, very entertaining match to go open the show. Next, we had NXT champion Karrion Kross and Johnny Gargano go face-to-face. William Regal and Samoa Joe are in the ring to host a segment where they attempt to settle things between Gargano and Kross. This is pro wrestling, so talking their problems out erupted into mayhem, obviously. Gargano claimed...
As it should.
You're right. Gargano claimed Kross was scared to face him in the ring. Regal said this feud cannot go on, which is departure from this feud must continue, normally. Regal announced a title match between the two next week, so we finally got a date when that match is going to take place. Kross objected to a title match, and Kross said he was not afraid of Gargano. Kross has 3 goals when he wakes up every morning. He wants to remain the NXT champion, he wants to main event WrestleMania, and he wants to become WWE champion. Basically foreshadowing his future here, I think. Or at least what possibly could be the case. We'll find out next week if Kross drops that belt. Main roster, here he comes. He insulted Gargano by saying he was wearing his wife's jeans, which those jeans were awfully tight. So can't blame him for that comment. Kross said this was not a cartoon. This was real life. Regal interrupted to say next week in a title match there is a special referee, and that person is going to be none other than Samoa Joe himself. The crowd popped for that, and Gargano threw a zinger as he was leaving the ring, talking about how Kross couldn't even lace his wife's boots. So, yeah, making fun of the line he made about the jeans earlier. Kross had heard enough. He wanted to fight right now, but Joe stepped in to block his path. Kross had a stare down with Joe to conclude the segment. So this was very good. I had no problem with this. Again, it just all depends on if Kross retains this belt next week or if Gargano is going to take it from him to set up a main roster move for Kross. And a lot of people have been speculating that the reason why they changed Nikki Cross's name to Nikki Ash is because Vince doesn't want 2 characters with the name of Kross on the main roster. So they're not spelled the same, one's with a K, one's with a C, but Nikki Ash is probably the reason why that got changed, or Kross is probably the reason why. So we'll see what happens next week in regards to that. We had a vignette hyped for NXT Cruiserweight Champion Kushida. It looks like he's going to be going after Roderick Strong and the Diamond Mine at some point, or at least they're going to continue that feud. Then we had $1 Million Champion LA Knight defending his $1 Million Championship against Cameron Grimes. The stipulation here was if Cameron Grimes did not win the $1 Million Championship, he would have to become LA Knight's butler. They didn't say for how long, I don't think, but just the fact that he will have to serve as his butler. Another great match. I actually felt like this match was a little bit better than their ladder match at the last pay-per-view. But of course, it ends up with, believe it or not, toward the end of it, LA Knight kind of took control here and won pretty convincingly in the end of this match.
He cheated.
Yeah, he did, but at the same time, he still got over, I think, pretty convincingly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
he cheated.
Yeah, and so, Knight is going to have a new butler in Cameron Grimes, which we kind of thought that that's probably where they were going to go once they announced this stipulation. Cameron Grimes is very talented and very great on the mic, and obviously they're going to be doing a lot of stuff of him going to have to be his servant. So this could be good vignette-wise. And I'm sure, probably, I'm assuming they're going to build the SummerSlam takeover, and that's when Grimes is going to finally get
his.
Yeah. So it may not last more than a couple months. Right. And maybe we'll get the return of Ted DiBiase to help him win the belt, so that could be great. And a live crowd would hopefully pop for that like crazy. So we'll see what happens with that. Next up, they announced the participants of the NXT Breakout Tournament. The tournament will include Trey Baxter, Carmelo Hayes, which I think we've seen on NXT before.
We've seen Trey Baxter, we've seen Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah. Some of these other guys, I don't remember any of their names.
I don't think we've seen. I can't remember their names either.
Well,
but they all look impressive.
Yeah. Andre Chase, Josh Briggs, Ikemen Hiro? I can't remember how you pronounce it. Joe Gacy, Odyssey Jones, and Duke Johnson. Or Duke Hudson, I'm sorry.
So the Ikemi guy, if you were looking at his thing.
Yeah, I saw this.
Something.
Japanese handsome style.
Yeah, I laughed. I was like, yo.
Yeah. And Shawn Michaels posted on Twitter that no one ever said that he had handsome style. And he was, so he was a little jealous on Twitter. So I thought that was kind of funny. Good way to push this guy a little bit on the social media accounts for sure. So yeah, this will be great. And it starts next week on NXT. So we'll get this 8-man tournament underway then. Zoe Stark and Io Shirai, they defeated and won the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. This was, I believe, another good match, but then midway through the match, we got the battery promo that had been going on through the last few weeks, and it was fully charged. All the lights went out during the match, and in typical main roster fashion, even though I think it makes sense here due to the return and the history, we got a returning Tegan Nox from injury, and she distracts Candice LeRae, who is the one who put her on the shelf. And of course, that cost them the match. And of course, who was it? I think Zoe Stark hit her finisher for the win on Indy Hartwell as Tegan Nox chased Candice LeRae out of the building, so to speak. So in this case, it makes sense to do the distraction finish. And of course, it keeps the way strong. So it just goes to show you can do distraction finishes, I think, under the right circumstances.
In an effective way.
Yeah.
As in, she didn't really interfere with the match. Like, she didn't come down to the ring to interfere with the match. She didn't grab Candice and take it. Because Candice wasn't the legal person. She was just in the ring at the time.
Right.
So when the lights went out and they did the thing, Tegan Nox appears on stage. First of all, she got a huge pop, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And she just stood up there. Indy went to do, I think it was a drop kick or something. And
yeah, she got slightly distracted, but she tried to continue the match.
The shit out of her.
Yeah, yeah. And at that point,
out, that finisher, K360, I believe is what.
It's like an inverted GTS or something like that. I think something like that. Yeah, it's gotta suck for whoever takes it.
Yeah, I was like, you got to go all the way around and then not get your face kicked in.
Yeah,
or kneed in. I love it though. I think it looks great.
It's working
and I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
This is also, gives EO something to do.
Right, and it keeps her away from the main roster.
Keeps her away from the main title.
Right.
So, yeah, that too.
That's a big plus.
This was, I believe, oh crap, now I'm blanking on her name.
Tegan Nox or Candice LeRae?
No.
Candice LeRae?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Girl EO tagged with.
Zoe Starks.
Zoe Starks.
Yeah.
It's her first title win, isn't it?
Yes, and they made it a point that last week, especially when they won the opportunity, that she's never won an NXT championship. So, yes, big moment for her, absolutely. And she gets the win to do it, get the pinfall.
Yeah,
so
she got the pin, too.
Yeah, so good for her, absolutely. After this, well, they went to a commercial break, I believe, and then when they came back, they showed what happened during the break. Dexter Lumis came out to ringside and carried Indy Hartwell in his arms, and they claimed love is apparently in the air. So this is continuing, even though we thought they dropped this, but they didn't apparently.
Index is back.
Yeah, Index is still a thing, and LeRae is going to obviously move on to Tegan Nox. Yeah. She was so smitten with the stalkerish vibes that Loomis puts off.
Just to pick her up.
Yeah.
Gotta
Just,
fucking work.
I got you, babe. It's all good.
Don't worry, I'm here.
I'll carry you over the threshold in gorilla position. Absolutely.
my-
We had Toni Storm in the back. She cut a promo on NXT Women's Champion Raquel Gonzalez. Storm was asked about Sarai wanting a match with her. Storm scoffed at the thought and declined the challenge. So are we getting Toni Storm versus Raquel Gonzalez from the looks of things?
No, it's gonna be. She's gonna face
Sarai first.
Right first. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just kind of wondering where Raquel Gonzalez is going at this point. Maybe she gets the winner.
Dealing with what's her name?
It's been a week, so maybe I forgot.
Shotzi.
Yeah, even though I think Shotzi
challenged her.
Okay. I know Shotzi also on Twitter wrote that her and Ember, I think, want the tag champions now.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they follow up on that or if she's just kind of throwing it out there on social media just for the heck of it.
I think they'll do this thing with her and Raquel 1st, and then they'll move on from there.
Either way, I think Raquel Gonzalez goes over and she retains.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It's just another match to kind of, which is it's good to keep the champions competing every so often. That way you keep showing them as strong, but you don't drop the title real quick. So it's a good way of doing it in pro wrestling in general. Then we had a segment that, while I admit was entertaining, it was basically a concert set.
Yeah, I don't know why it took so long for this.
Right. Don't get me wrong, and it was well done for what it was. Hit Row came out, North American Championship, Cypher Celebration. Like I said, it's basically they did a set. They sang or rapped or whatever you want to call it here, and it was done well. But for me, it was like, what was the point in it? I mean, because it didn't really further anything. It was just taking up time here on this show. So it wasn't the biggest home run for me. I know a lot of people online absolutely love this. Just for me personally, I was just kind of like, okay. Yeah, cool. They celebrated.
With you.
They did a good job though. I mean, like I said, if that for what it was good.
Yeah, it was good for what it was.
I just didn't understand.
I just didn't know what is the point.
Yeah, I mean, okay, he won the belt, and I know they have these celebrations and stuff on WWE television a lot. And, and a lot of companies do this when they win titles. But it was just like, all right, everybody looked cool, I guess. Good rap segment. But when it comes to a pro wrestling standpoint, didn't do much for me. But anyway, after this, we had the main event. We're already there. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly 2. Outstanding.
I don't even want to fucking... This match was...
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, outstanding.
It was hard. Like, okay. So, as much as I like the first one, I did. I love the first one.
Yeah, I think it was better a little bit, in my opinion.
This one, that's because they went all over the place in the first one.
Well, yeah, they did a gimmick match, then they devolved into a straight wrestling match. It's like, all right, shouldn't that be the other way around?
Yeah, but like this was one of those, like, they beat the fuck out of each other without really leaving the ring.
True.
So this one was more, instead of, let's use everything we can, we're confined to this space, so we're just going to try to kill each other.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then they proceeded to try to kill each other.
Yeah, and they had a fantastic pro wrestling match. Pro wrestling match, I would have strictly say that.
Kyle O'Reilly's a very technical wrestler, so it was actually, and I mean, so is Cole, but comparatively to two, I believe Kyle's the more technical out of the two.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see Cole exchange holds with O'Reilly, and of course O'Reilly getting the better of those exchanges at times. The knee played into it, which was awesome.
And he kept selling that. So great, all the little details. Yes, just like Riddle the night before.
Some of those fucking hits and kicks from Kyle O'Reilly, it's like I can't.
And I mean, how many Panama Sunrises did he hit?
Oh
he hit
one my god, that one on the outside.
Yeah, he hit one on the floor, which yeah. I mean, what does he call it? It's not a shining wizard, but it's a move from the back. The last shot, okay. So he had multiples of those. O'Reilly hit his. I want to say he hit his finisher too. I know he went for the flying knee that he got him last time with, but didn't get him this time. And again, like I said, Adam Cole defeats Kyle O'Reilly here after multiple Panama Sunrises and multiple finishers, which they did kick out of a lot of that stuff as well.
One, like, I thought he was dead. Like, the way his body just flopped over, like he kicks out but just lays on the ground. I'm like, is Kyle conscious at this point?
I mean, I can understand if he wasn't. He was taking so many shots. My only nitpick with this, outside of the fact it was an outstanding match, I'll say that. And I got no problem necessarily with the winner, I suppose. I love Adam Cole. But to me, it's like 50-50 booking. You just did the gimmick match with the chain spot, which is absolutely incredible, where O'Reilly got the win. Now Adam Cole's got the win. I'm assuming we're probably going to get part 3 then.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way to further the feud. Like, if O'Reilly would have won, then there's no point. The animosity that these two have towards each other is going to be one of those where it's one of those, like, okay, best of series without calling it a best of series. But I would love for them to go, all right, listen, there's only one way to settle this. We'll give you guys this many matches. At the end of that, that is it. You get what I'm saying? Like,
kind of like a Cesaro Sheamus situation.
yes. Because like I would love to see another one, and I think we're going to get another one because at some point they're going to top what they did.
I mean, they're going to have to because I mean, what kind of match is it? They did the straight wrestling match. They did what was it, a street fight or something to that effect?
It was an unsanctioned.
Unsanctioned, okay. And so it's like, all right, what's the third one?
You know what I would love to see? Because we haven't seen him in forever. A submission match. Play to one strength. If you give them a best of, let's say, 3 out of 5, okay? With these two counting, so there'd be 3 more, right?
Okay.
And each pick a stipulation for those matches. You already had unsanctioned. This was your regular match. I would love to see a submission match. I haven't seen one of those. Oh, God. It's been... Shit, who was the last? Who had the last submission match? I think it was
I couldn't even tell you. Really? Has it been that long? I mean, I'm not denying. It might be. I couldn't tell you.
I'm going to look it up. But yes.
Okay.
I haven't seen a submission match in forever. Hell, I mean, do last man standing. Do the third one be a last man standing match?
I would say I agree with you on that. And in this case, it would make sense. We just had one of those with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on SmackDown.
Oh,
and now we're getting a no or a false count anywhere on Raw with Ricochet and John Morrison. So it's almost like it feels like that is a little played out at the moment. But like I said, but to your point, the feud would call for it at this point.
I mean, this feud would call for something.
Yeah, this place it would make sense. The other one's kind of like, all right, you've had a couple matches, and now Kevin and Sammy have been going for years, but that's a little another story. But I guess you do kind of run the risk. Now, it's a little different here in NXT because this O'Reilly Cole thing has been brewing since the Undisputed Era, and not to mention this is a program, so you do sometimes do multiple matches in a program over a few months span. Raw and SmackDown's doing this thing where it's just like, okay, every week, same match each week, over and over and over, like 5-6 weeks straight sometimes. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin, or I'm sorry, Kingless Corbin, whatever Happy Corbin, whatever they want to call him now, which they trademarked, by the way, Happy Corbin. I don't know if you heard about that. Even though he's all sad right now because his crown's been stolen.
He's going to come back as some motivational speaker. You remember that dude, Simon Dean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be Corbin. Give him a segue.
And they've been calling Shinsuke Kingsuke Nakamura.
I'm done. All right.
It's the truth. But yeah, so outside of the 50-50 booking part of this, which again, if it leads to a third match, I get why they did it.
I think that's why.
If that's the case, it's fine. But sometimes they do the 50-50 booking on the main roster where no one gets over. I don't think this is that situation.
No, because this, like I said, this makes sense for their feud and their story. Like, you got me, now I got you. There's got to be a rubber match here to determine who's the better out of the two of us. And because, you've seen the way they are with each other. They're not happy that one of them beat the other. That's why we got the second one. Right. Because Cole couldn't.
Yeah, they were yelling at each other in the gurneys on the way to the hospital.
Cole couldn't, accept that shit. Yeah. And there's no way Kyle's just going to roll over. He's not that type of character. It's not that kind of, a face. So goading him into a match that benefits him would work so well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think this is one of those situations, kind of like Io Shirai earlier in the night when she won the women's tag team championships. This also keeps Adam Cole away from the main roster at this point. So, so hopefully, now, obviously, it looks like Bronson Reed and Karrion Kross, depending on what happens next week, may be on their way to the main roster. Yeah, we'll see. But
I thought at some point during that whole Hit Row thing, Bronson's Reed music would have hit. I was waiting for Swerve to start rapping and then Bronson's music to hit.
I mean, it would have made sense, but
with
they've got other plans
for the main roster, I guess. Okay, not.
Yeah, if he's going there, there's no sense of bringing him back to NXT
Yeah.
at all at this point. He did the job on the way out, and he'll be probably, I don't know which show. I mean, it sounds like they're going to be making big changes after SummerSlam. I don't know if they hold him off till then or whatnot, but from what I understand too, there's been many reports going around since live crowds are coming back this week for AEW. And from what I understand, AEW, the report is they are going to stack every card on Dynamite every single week moving forward to try to get the crowds back into it. And I've heard WWE is saving certain surprises. Could a couple of those surprises be Karrion Kross and Bronson Reed making debuts before the draft? And, but obviously the draft is going to have other surprises. So at least it's good to see both companies at least trying to figure out ways, to get crowds back into this and hopefully sell some tickets and get the ball rolling again post-pandemic. So, but yeah, that will pretty much do it for NXT this week. The Great American Bash was a pretty good show, all things considered. Some few minor nitpicks, but still better than any of the main roster shows. But the real question here is, guys, what do you guys think about NXT, the Great American Bash for 2021? Comment down below. Let us know, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when we put up new content right here on this channel. And until our next video, guys, take care.
Better subscribe or I'll hit you with a pillow.
Wow, that's a real threat, y'all.
Yeah, ready to go, man, lock and load. That's right, I swear to God that I can drop and roll. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable.